Hi, welcome back to Misco Expo 2015. I'm joined by Marcus Thompson from the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Group. Marcus, thanks for taking the time to speak to us. Tell us a bit about yourself and your responsibilities within HP.
Well, good morning. Well, first of all, thanks for giving me the opportunity to have a chat with you this morning. Yes, I work as a business development manager within our storage business, focused on what we call our software-defined storage solutions, which includes our hyper-converged solution offering.
You've touched on the word there. That's one of the key buzzwords at Misco Expo 2015, HyperConvergence. Let's start with the very basics. What is HyperConvergence?
Exactly. So always lots of buzzwords in our industry, but fortunately this is a little bit shorter than some of them. HyperConvergence is simply the concept of bringing together all elements of a virtualized infrastructure stack in a single turnkey appliance form. So if you think about the infrastructure you need to run an application in a virtualized environment, we need a server, we need a hypervisor, and almost in 99% of cases we need some form of shared storage, a SAN. What a hyperconverged platform does is it utilizes the compute power of the server, and by adding your storage services in software to that platform, we're able to deliver a turnkey, off-the-shelf, in effect, data center in a box. Instead of determining whether you need to buy more servers or more storage in the future, these platforms are scale-out architectures. Just buy another appliance, add it to the cluster, and you're adding compute and storage as your application needs grow.
Okay, before we delve deeper into the benefits of hyperconvergence, what would you say to companies and organizations who are thinking of doing it the old-fashioned way? What are the downsides and potential pitfalls of just doing virtualization the way it's been done in the past?
Well, I think we've got to look at what's actually happened in customers' businesses since virtualization's been around. If you wind the clock back, probably about 10 years now, when virtualization was starting to be adopted. Back then, probably about, I think it was 15% of all application workloads were virtualized. Today, it's probably 85%. But then if you actually go and ask customers another question, which is, well, before you virtualized, how many servers did you have in your data center? And I had exactly this conversation with a customer about a month ago. And he said, well, I can remember exactly what it was. It was 27 servers. I said, now how many virtual servers are you running today? He said, over 500. So actually virtualization went from being a consolidation tool to actually an enabler for customers to deploy more applications to drive their business. So we know today, ultimately, we live in a digital world, and that's borne out by this growth. Now, customers haven't, up until recently, changed the way they've been deploying infrastructure right back from the open system days. Servers, storage as separate nodes. And that's fine. And actually, in a lot of cases, there's arguments why it would make sense. Certainly, if you're looking at very high levels of service level, 6 nines reliability, then probably you're going to be looking at a more traditional approach. But if you're a typical business where actually what you really want is an infrastructure to run applications that drive your business, and we're not getting more resources to do that today, but the proof point is there's many more applications being deployed. So if we can simplify the infrastructure, take the risk out of it, take out the requirement to design it, then it allows companies to actually focus on what they really want to do with IT, which is to drive profitability. And at the end of the day, the only reason why we buy infrastructure is to run an application.
That brings me nicely to the next question, actually. You've touched on a few other points, but in your opinion, what are the key benefits of a hyper-converged system?
So really, we just use the term time to value. So there's you haven't got a design cycle in terms of buying the system. We'll specify the workload that an appliance can support, and that's it's a single vendor solution, so that's underwritten. So these systems come ready to install, fully automated in terms of deployment. We say up and running in 15 minutes. Next thing, when it actually comes to the management of the system, you're no longer managing separate components. We believe that ultimately in a virtual environment, the hypervisor is king, if you like. So we make sure that all of the storage services are actually able to be managed from the hypervisor of your choice. And finally, cost. typically we'd see in a like-for-like solution maybe 30% cost savings in a hyper-converged system over a traditional enterprise environment.
These are all benefits that are going to be very attractive to a lot of visitors here. Consolidation, simplified management, lower cost. With regards to simplified management in particular, would it be fair to assume that fewer specialists are required with hyperconvergence?
So probably the one area of specialisation that you're going to still need is the hypervisor vendors. So whether that's VMware, Microsoft, or KVM, in our case of the software that we support in some of our hyper-converged integrated solutions. Today we only support VMware with the hyper-converged platform. So clearly, we're not eliminating the requirement for IT skills completely, but we're actually effectively saying, let's manage everything through the hypervisor.
Okay, now it sounds like you have a great proposition for the market, but can you give us some use case examples for the technology?
So this, depending on the size of the organisation, the platform could be your main infrastructure solution for general virtualized workloads. In larger organizations, perfect solution for a remote branch office where you haven't got local IT, you want to be able to deploy solutions remotely. These boxes can be delivered to site, installed and then managed centrally. And finally, maybe some specific use cases where scale-out architecture makes sense. It's a perfect platform for virtual desktop.
Right. Okay, and final question. For anybody who's coming to the event today who's actually considering a hyper-converged system, what would you describe as the three most important features for them to look out for?
Firstly, obviously the principal difference between a virtualized server and a hyper-converged solution are the embedded storage services and software. So I would be examining closely the maturity and capability of that software architecture. In our case, we've been able to leverage the Left-Hand OS, which was part of the Left-Hand Networks acquisition back in 2007, and we had a hyper-converged platform back then. We're shipping version 12.5 of our software. We've got embedded high availability capability, which is really important when we're talking about massive levels of consolidation. So that's the first point. The second point is, do you want to be actually completely reinventing the wheel and starting to look at other consoles? Well, we think you've already virtualized. You know what vCenter or Microsoft System Center looks like. Let's plug our architecture into that. So, other solutions may try and present you with another console, and effectively then you're creating another island of compute. And finally, don't underestimate the importance of the underlying hardware and support capability of the vendor that you're looking at. Whilst these solutions are ultimately software-based, they're only as good as the underlying hardware that they're running on, and the solution's only as good as the support that comes with it. So I'd be looking, obviously in a world of new technology, a lot of startups in the space, and that's good because it keeps us larger vendors on our toes. But ultimately, a vendor like Hewlett-Packard Enterprise has those other capabilities wrapped around the solution.
Excellent. That's some really important insight and some very, very well chosen considerations, I think, there. So thanks very much for talking to us, Marcus, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.